Turns out that Toyota and Lexus are recalling cars to replace engines. The quality of everything seems to be going downhill these days. Over 44,000 from 2019 to 2020 are being recalled because their engines may have problems. Camry Hybrid, Avalon Hybrid, Lexus ES, Toyota RAV4s, RAV4 hybrid SUVs are being recalled because they could have an engine problem. This is a serious problem. They had a manufacturing error, they said, where the engine block could leak coolant or oil leading to a fire, it could stall, could have engine smoke, lots of things can happen. Toyota claims that 250 out of the 44,191 recalled will need their engine replaced. The dealers have to check the serial number on the engine blocks. This sounds strange. If they say 250 of them are the only ones that are going to have problems, why are they recalling 44,191? They should certainly know. If they know that there's only 250 of them that are affected by this problem, they should know which VIN numbers they are and recall just those ones with those VIN numbers. The actual thing that they're recalling 44,000 of them instead sounds a little bit fishy to me. Supposedly a water flow meter from the factory failed when some engines were being cast. These blocks didn't cool right and they can have cracks inside. The fact that they're recalling 40-something thousand of them, and they claim only 250 of them are affected, sounds like a lot of baloney to me. It really does. They should know. If they say, okay, from this time to that time, 250 vehicles were affected, they should know which VIN numbers, recall those. The point that they have to recall 40,000 of them for what they say is only 250, sounds like there might be more problems down the line than just those 250 cars. This bids what I've been telling people for years, and I don't care what anybody says. You want a Japanese car? Buy one that's made in Japan. They do a better job there. Period. I don't care. That's just from what I've seen of fixing cars for 52 years. You want a German car? Buy one made in Germany. They're actually making the engines in Tennessee, and as you can see, they screwed up. I don't know what it is, but the Japanese seem to have a lot better quality control in Japan. That's why I say, you want to buy a Japanese car? Get one made in Japan. It does make a difference where these things are built. Now, the recall is supposed to take effect April 6, 2020. But, as I always say, you want to watch me about these things to warn you about the future. Because if you got one of those cars now, if I were you, I'd take it in. And I'd say, is my car one of those? Inspect it now. Don't wait. When you find this information for me, put it to use right away. These big corporations, they got time lags, this, that, and everything else. Me, as soon as I find out information, I'm going to tell it to you. Miss Wegley says, what's the best place to buy a used car? Private party or how are the auctions? You're always better buying a car from a private party because you're paying cash. Cash is king, you pay less. If you're buying a car from a private party, you got to pay them the whole thing. Now, they might be kind of nutty and say, well, look at the dealer. They sell those cars for $15,000, so I want $15,000. Then you just say, at the dealer, I pay them, $150 a month. You're going to take $150 a month? Well, no, I want the whole price. Well, then you pay less. That's the best thing to do. Car auctions, stay away from car auctions. People sell cars at car auctions generally because there's a problem. Either in the title, the car's been wrecked, flooded, stolen, there's a problem. They sell them because they sell fast, but they don't get much money for them. Car auctions are for professionals. I know professionals who go to car auctions all the time, but they're professionals. And they have a contract with the auctions. And it goes kind of like this. They might go with, say, $10,000, and they might buy 5, 6 cars for that. They get a guarantee with that because they buy a lot of them. And it pretty much says that if each car they bought has too many problems, costs too much to fix, that they can return it to the auction. They don't get their money back, but they get credit for whatever they pay. So if they pay $2,000 for that car, they get $2,000 credit for buying another one. Now these guys are buying 4 or 5 cars at a time, and they sell them for 2 to 3 times what they paid at the auction. They're making money. But even there, they're not going to get burned with an absolute lemon, because if it is, they send it back and they get their credit, and on it goes. And then I suppose the auction tries to sell it to another fool that will buy that car, and it'll be a private individual who doesn't have the same deal going on, and they're stuck with the crappy car. So stay away from auctions unless you're a pro. BWR05 says, I can't seem to find a good used car from a private seller in my area. I need to find a car relatively quickly in the next week. Last place I want to shop is used car lot, but I'm considering an 07 Camry with 60,000 miles for $6,500. A clean Carfax. Seems in good shape. If a mechanic clears this, is this a complete rip-off? 60,000 miles, that's low mileage, but it's a 13-year-old car. It's your choice on the money. If it's a good car and you like it, go ahead and buy it. But that's way too much money for a 13-year-old car. It's got low mileage, so if you really have to, that's an awful lot of money for a car. that's that old. But like I say, if they check it out, okay, they're good cars. And if that's they have to prove it's the real mileage. Make sure, because hey, it's a 13-year-old car, 60,000 miles, kind of unbelievable unless an old person owned it. Make sure there's proof that that's the actual mileage. Pastor Tute says, I literally bought an Audi S4 2012 with 100,000 miles. Within 3 hours of me owning it, I took it to the store and it wouldn't start, but it acted like it was starting. I put it in neutral, started it, started. Now I drove to my friends and it wouldn't start in neutral or park. Maybe it could be a neutral control switch. Help. Okay, let's pray. It's a neutral control switch. Rarely it is on one of those things. They're very complex. Endless money pits. I feel sad for you that you bought a used one with 100,000 miles on it. You're going to find, even if it is just that switch, go ahead and try it. Have a mechanic put it on, and maybe you'll get lucky, and that'll fix it. Those things are endless money pits. And the fact that you owned that car for 3 hours and it broke and wouldn't start already, that's just an omen of future money pitdom. Believe me, if there's any, and I mean any way, you can sell that thing for anything close to where you paid for it, get rid of it now. The 3-hour breakdown is warning you. Heed the warning. Don't put a bunch of money into one of those junky Audis. They're just money pits when they get over 100,000 miles on them. Cruiser says, hey, Scotty, what do you think of little Honda CRZ hybrid 2-seaters? I'm finding them cheap used and they look sporty, thanks. Scotty always says, do not buy a used hybrid. They're expensive to fix when they age. Consequently, their resale values go down the toilet. I've had customers all the time go out and buy used Toyota Priuses, which are the top of the line hybrids, for $1,500. They're gambling with $1,500 is what they're doing. If you can find one of those cheap enough, and let's say it's got less than 100,000 miles on it, and you don't mind gambling, they generally go a lot further than that. But once they get to be over 10 years old, 100 more thousand miles on them, they start to become money pits, expensive batteries, generators. Hardly anybody knows how to work on the things. The guys that do are going to really, because they know hardly anybody knows how to work on these things. I had to pay for all these tools to work on them, and I'm going to charge customers a lot to pay for all my investments. So, I mean, if you can get one really cheap and you don't want to gamble with it as a toy, great. But don't pay much money for a used one, because once over 100-something thousand miles or over 10 years old, they become endless money pits because of that hybrid technology that's complex, hard to fix, and hardly anybody knows how to repair them. He says, Sir Scotty, tell me about the MGZs. They started selling them in the Philippines with the Geely Cool Rays, but with the new brands here, I don't know much about them. Okay, well, MG was originally an English company, right? And then they went, and the Chinese bought them. They made little sports cars that started out, they were Chinese cars. They had nothing to do with the original MGs. They made them better, and they weren't bad sports cars, but they couldn't sell enough, so they stopped making the sports cars. Now, the only thing that they make are SUVs. And from what I read, I've never personally seen one. They aren't sold in the United States. They sell them in other parts of the world. They seem to be decent vehicles. They're lower priced than the other cars that are out there. And they're SUVs they seem to be decent cars. I mean, Geely and those companies, they've been making cars for quite some time. They don't sell them in the U.S. yet. One day they probably will. They're decent cars. Now, if you're talking about any MG sports cars, they never really made it, and they aren't making it anymore. So if you're talking about buying a used one, I stay away from the used MG sports cars that were made in China, because they don't make them anymore, and they're probably not going to support repairs and parts and stuff for them. But the SUVs, they seem to be up and coming. 300C says, my '08 Nissan Maxima is making a groaning sound when I turn the steering wheel all the way to the end. I need help figuring out what it could be. Okay, generally when it makes it at the very end, it means that either your power steering pump or your power steering rack is going bad. And here's the kicker of it all. The racks are very, very expensive. New ones cost a ton. Rebuilt ones, sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. And the labor is a lot of money, because you got to take the whole front end of the car off to get all that crap out and put it back in. I know, I've done them and I hate doing it. It's a horrible, dirty, filthy job. Then you have to have the front end realigned. There's extra money. If you don't like the noise, first replace the power steering pump. If it only does it all the way to the far end, doesn't do it the rest of the time and it steers okay, you can live with it. It's no big deal. I've had cars like that for years. But if it bothers you, try a new pump first. And I mean new, not rebuilt. The rebuilt pumps often stink. You want to buy a brand new one, not a rebuilt one. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.